Hello again, and welcome to this new episode of this quick starting guide to Revit and WPF add-ins. So in the last or in the first episode, we talked about external commands, and today we have a quick Revit API overview. So let's start. So in this episode, we're gonna take a look at the Revit API. What is it? What is its structure? And then we're gonna try to create a script in which we can find most of the steps that we need usually to create scripts in C# for Revit. All right. So we're gonna take a look, as I said, at the Revit API. Then we're gonna start writing our own script. We're gonna take a look at selection, at geometry, at collecting and filtering elements, and then at transactions. So the API stands for Application Programming Interface. And what is it exactly is, as you can see here, we have our Revit, and there is me and you, of course, and we want to interact with Revit. So the API is this connection between us and Revit. It allows us to use some classes and namespaces and methods to interact with Revit. And of course, we don't have the total power to use whatever we want, so we can use only things that we have in this API. All right. So one thing that we have in the Revit API is its structure. First of all, so it's made of namespaces, and within each namespace you have classes, you have enumerations, you have interfaces, and usually we deal more with classes. Of course, we use enums and interfaces, but most of the time it's more about classes. And classes, as you can see here, are made of methods and properties. So in each class, you're gonna find some methods and some properties. An example of that is the namespace DB database, which has a class named wall, for example, and it has a method called create that needs some arguments to pass, and it has as property an ID. So assuming you already know C#, so this is not something difficult for you to understand. So let's see that now in the Revit API docs itself. So as you can see here, I have the Revit API docs. I'm gonna go in here to 2022. As you can see, I have all these namespaces, and let's open one of them. So as you can see, we have classes, we have enumerations. So let's open whatever class, this one for example. If you go to members, you can find here the methods and the properties. In this case, we have only one property in here, and we have 5 methods. You can go ahead and click on one of them. You find the description, and you find an example, or not the example, the syntax, basically C#, Visual Basic, and Visual C++. We are using C#, so just take a look at the first syntax. And then you have implements, remarks. See also here you have the hierarchy. Basically, you can find that this method in here, it belongs to this class, and this class belongs to DB, which belongs to API object class. All right, great. So now I think we're gonna jump directly to our Visual Studio. So last time we stopped in or at some place where we had a task dialog that said hello. So we created a command that we can find in external commands in the add-ins tab. All right, and today we're gonna try to create a script that does something. All right, so let's start. First of all, I have here some comments. So I'm gonna start with getting the document and the UI document. So I'm gonna say UI document, and I'm gonna call it UI doc equals command data dot application dot active UI document, and then I'm gonna say document, I'm just gonna call it doc. Let's call this one also like this. So doc is basically the UI doc dot document. So in most of the scripts that you're gonna create, you're gonna use this document variable that we have in here. So next, so basically, let me tell you what am I going to do. I'm going to try to create a simple script that creates a door in a wall. Super simple, but we're gonna take a look at things that we talked about before. So selection, filtering, transactions, and all of that. So what I do basically is to put all my script inside a try statement, as you can see in here, and then you have a catch in here. So first of all, I'm going to start with picking objects. So this is actually a reference. Sorry. So this is actually a reference. I'm going to call it picked object, and this is gonna use the UI doc that we have in here because it's interacting with the active UI document of our project. And I'm gonna say dot selection dot picked pick object. All right, and here, as you can see, we have 4 methods. So I'm just gonna say Autodesk dot Revit dot UI dot selection dot object type, and here this is an enumeration. We can select many things. You can select the edge, element, face, and many other things. So I'm gonna select a wall to put a door in it. So the wall is an element. So I'm just gonna click in here, and that's it. So basically, for the type, if you don't know what is it exactly, what I do is actually just type var, variable, and there's nothing wrong with this, but it's to know what is the type, you can just hover over your variable, and you can see here, you can see it's a reference. So I can just go ahead and type reference. Sorry. There you go. Okay, so now we picked an object. So what I do is I usually check if this object is picked. So I'm gonna say pick object is not null, just to make sure that I picked something. And now my code is gonna go inside here. If this is true, I'm gonna execute the lines that are inside these 2 brackets. So I'm just gonna grab these and throw them inside. So if you are wondering how to do this in VS, in Visual Studio, just click on Alt and arrows up and down. Okay, now the second thing that I'm gonna do is actually collect the family symbol, Or you know what, let's go with first of all getting the things about my host element, which is a wall, and then we're gonna come back to collecting elements. So now what I am going to do actually is getting the element itself. So here it's just a reference. So to do this, actually I'm going to say this is a variable, and I'm just going to call it wall ID, and I'm going to try to get the ID. Okay, so I'm just gonna say that I need this picked object dot element ID. All right, and once I have the ID, so again you can see this is an element ID, so I can go ahead and type element ID that you can see in here. All right, so now once I got the ID, I'm going to use the ID to get the element itself. So I'm gonna say element is wall equals to wall, or no, so it's document dot get element, and I throw the ID in there, which is my wall ID, and I believe I have a typo in here. Yeah, so it's double L. There you go. So now I have this element, which is a wall. Great. So now I'm gonna try to get the geometry of the wall. I want to get a line within this wall, and then I'm gonna get a point on this line to create a door on it. Okay, so what I can do is actually just say variable again. I'm gonna say this is the location of the curve, and you're gonna see what is this in a minute. So this is basically my wall dot location. So what is this now? Let's see. So it's a location. So I can type here location, but I don't want to do that. Or actually, let me show you if I do that. So I'm gonna say variable curve to get the curve of this location. So we're gonna say loc curve dot curve, and this is not working actually. Why? Because this dot curve is actually, if we go back in here and go to location class, I want to get the curve, but you can see it's not something that you can find in here. Rather, we can find this under location curve class. So in members, you can see that I have a curve. So it's quite simple. The only thing that we need to do in here is to cast this one as location curve. And now you can see it's a location curve. So I can type in here location curve. Great. So now, as you can see, there is no error. It's working great. And this is a curve. So I can go ahead here and type curve. Great, so we got the curve now. Now we need to get a point on this curve. This is quite easy. So I'm just gonna type XYZ. I'm gonna call my variable point. And this is, I'm going to use a method called evaluate. And as you can see, it takes a double, which is a parameter, and a boolean to say if it's normalized, so it's true or false. So the parameter should be between 0 and 1, and I'm gonna say let's say just in the middle. In here I'm just gonna say true. So it's gonna take the curve as from 0 to 1, and 0.5 is just in the middle of the curve. So my instance is gonna be in the middle of this curve, okay, which is the location curve of my wall. Great, now we have the point. I think now we should go ahead. So we have our curve, we have our point, we have our wall. Actually, I think what is good to do right now is actually to show you new family instance method that we're gonna use, and just to show you the arguments that I'm trying to create or to collect. So I'm just gonna use this one. So this one, to create a new family instance, takes a location. Where am I going to create this instance? It's a point. And it takes also the family symbol. It takes also the element of the host, which is our wall, and it takes also the structural type. Okay, so now we have the location, and we have also the element. So you can see the location is my point in here, and the element is actually my wall. What I need actually now is family symbol and the structural type. The structural type is so easy. It's just an enumeration, as you can see in here. And for me, I'm just gonna place a door. This is the instance, so it's just non-structural. So we're gonna go back to this one later on. But now the thing that we need to have is our family symbol. So let's go back in here, and this is the step where we're gonna need to collect some family symbols. Great, let's go. Oh, okay, great. So now let's go to the family symbols. So I'm just going to collect the elements using, I'm gonna call it collector, and this is actually a new, so you can find it in here, filtered element collector. I'm just gonna instantiate a new filtered element collector. So let's go back. So this is new filtered, it's gonna be somewhere in here, filtered element collector. Great. And it takes as argument, you can see the document, which is here. I called it doc, so I'm just gonna say doc. Great. Now I'm gonna apply this collector to collect some stuff. So again, let's take a look at this filtered element collector, and just, it's a good practice to have our types well written instead of just var. So now let's go ahead and apply this. So I'm just gonna say variable, I'm just gonna say this is the symbol that I'm going to have at the end. So I'm gonna say collector dot, I'm gonna use of category, and here I'm going to use the built-in category dot ost, and I need doors. There you go. And now I'm gonna say where element is element type. Okay, I'm interested in the types, and just collect them to elements. Okay, so this is going to give me the element types. So this is an list of elements. So list of element. Great. Now I have collected the types of the doors that I have. Okay, and what am I going to do is actually loop through the, so this is a list. I'm going to loop through this list and get the one that I need. So let's say for each, I'm just gonna say variable I, let's just call it I, in symbols. Actually, let's call this symbols because it's a list. I'm gonna open this and say that I'm going to create a variable called family. Let's call it family sim. Famsim. Okay, so I'm going to take this I and cast it as a family symbol. And now I'm going to check if this is the one that I need. So I'm going to check if this family symbol dot dot name equals, so the one that I'm going to use is called 18 10 and then 21 10 millimeters. So this is the door or the type of the door that I'm going to use. In here basically you can use family symbol because I already said that family symbol is this I in here, but let's leave it like this, there's no problem. Now is time to start my transaction. So now it's time to start my transaction because I have the point, I have the wall, I have the family symbol. So it's going to loop through the family symbols until it finds the one, and it's going to execute my code. So in here, I'm just going to say, so we are going to say, or actually I think I have it in here, so I don't have to write it again. So I'm just going to copy this over, and this is how to start a transaction. Using transaction, I called it T new transaction, and you pass the document as the first argument, and the second argument is just the title of the transaction. I called it place family instance, and then you open the transaction with t.start because t is my variable for transaction, and you finish it with t.commit. And one thing that you don't want to miss is when you scroll up, we had this transaction attribute, transaction mode. It's read only. We want to change this now because there is a transaction that is going to happen. So we need to set this to manual. So be careful, you have to set it to manual in order for this to happen. Great, so now one thing that I need to do is actually I have to check that my family symbol is active. So I'm just gonna say if this so if this family symbol is not active, I'm just gonna say if this is not active, then we need to activate this. So family symbol activate, and this is a method, I believe. Yeah. So if this family symbol is not activated, we need to activate it, and then we can go ahead and just use our, what is it? Yeah, we can go ahead and use our method in here. I'm just gonna copy this one and say doc.create dot. Actually, I copied this, so I can go ahead and just print this in here, and I'm gonna pass the point as the first argument. The second argument is my family symbol, so my family symbol. Third argument is actually the hosting element, which is my wall, and the last argument is autodesk.revit. So it's db dot structure. There you go. dot structural type dot, you can see this enumeration, just a second. So dot not beam dot non-structural, because it's a door again. All right, so no issues found. We don't have any issues. We just need to get rid of this whole space in here. Okay, so as you can see here, the try is ending with a return result succeeded. Let's make this indentation. And I catch exception. If there's an exception, it's going to throw a message and return result failed. And again, don't forget to set this to manual. I think we are ready to go. I just want to change the name of the class because it doesn't really make sense to call it say hello. So I'm just gonna go in here and rename this. We can call it, for example, place instance. All right, place instance, yeah. So it's gonna ask me if I want to change the name in here, and you can see it's automatically changed. So I'm going to save this, and the second thing that you need to go and change is our file in here. I have it actually opened in here. So it's going to, so remember this file .addin, when we open Revit, it's gonna look for these files. Once it finds it, it's gonna go inside it and go ahead and say, so I'm going to look inside this assembly, my Revit addin.dll, and it's going to look for this class to actually execute it. And it's not gonna find it because I changed the name. So what I want to do in here is be careful and go ahead, change the name to place instance. Okay, I think I have no typos in here. So I believe this is the only thing that we need to change in here because, oh yeah, so the text is, it's up to you. It makes sense to change it. So I'm going to change this. And description and all that, you can change them if you want. Make sure you save and then hit start, and see you in a minute. So I opened a new project in here. I'm just going to create a wall, and let's go here. So let me get rid of these. Let's hide them actually, and let's take a look at this from here. So I'm going to go to add-ins, and I have this external tools panel or button, and this is my place instance command. So I'm just gonna click, and it's gonna wait until I select some object. You can see things got grayed out in here. So I'm going to select my element in which I want to place the door. So once I select it, you can see the door is created. If I click on this, you can see it has the same name that I was looking for in here. Okay, and you can see it's exactly where is it? So I said 0.5. You can see it's exactly in the middle of the wall. So just quickly to explain this, the curve of the wall is actually the curve in the center of this wall that goes all along the wall. So I retrieved that and I picked a point from that curve. For example, a column, it doesn't have a curve. It doesn't return, if you return the location, you're gonna need to have the location point, not curve, in that scenario. But here, as you can see, the wall is a line-based kind of geometry. Okay, so it's based on a line, and you can see that clearly when I created the wall. I just went from here to here, so you can see it's based on a line. It's not just me clicking on a wall and just clicking and it's created. And you can see columns, for example. I don't need to create a line. I just click and wait a minute, what's happening here? Oh yeah, vertical. So I just click in here and you have this column. So it's not line based, this is a point based geometry. So if you want to do anything with this column, with this column's geometry, you need to retrieve the point, and there is no line to work with. So before I forget, one thing that we can do when we debug in the Visual Studio is, say for example, I want to know how many elements collected in this symbols variable. So I'm just going ahead here to line 39 in here and click twice. You can see this red dot, and I click in here, apply changes. Let me minimize, and I'm going to delete this one and go again to my command. Just click. So once it reaches this line, okay, so it's gonna stop, and now I can hover over this one and take a look in here, and I have null. I have nothing collected so far. Okay, so this is one thing that we can do, but I believe instead of doing this, I'm just gonna apply changes and go again. So now if we go to symbols, so be careful where with where to place this red dot. Here, symbols, I can see that it found five elements in here. Can open one of them, and here you have all the parameters and the definitions next to them. Alright, so as you can see, we just went through a very simple script, very simple task, just to take a look at the Revit API and using it in C#. As I said in the last video, you have this Autodesk Revit. If you go to the developer's guide, I'm going to leave it again in the description box. You can find many examples with filtering, selections, parameters. You have this geometry, sketching, materials, surfaces, and in this case, let's go here, for example. You're gonna find explanations, you're gonna find some examples, and yeah, if you're coming, by the way, from Python like me, don't get frustrated. Or if you get frustrated, that is totally natural. You're gonna need some time to get used to work with C# in Revit. It's a bit annoying in the beginning, but then it gets not super easy, but you get used to it. So, alright, I hope this was useful. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.